Thinking about making a move to the Portland, Oregon area? Well, in this video, we're going to tell you roughly about 10 things that you just should know if you're planning on making a move to Portland and living in Portland. And if you stick around to the end, we will talk about the number one question we seem to get, which is all about the homeless. And we're getting after it right now.
If this is your first time to the channel and you want to know everything there is to know about living in the Portland metro area, then click the subscribe button and tap that notification bell so that you can be the first to know about everything happening in the Portland market.
I'm Ann Stewart. This is Erica Hagfirst. We're your go-to gals if you're planning on making a move to the Portland metro area. We love what we do. We get phone calls, texts, and emails all the time. We set up Zoom calls regularly if people are thinking about making the move. Whether it's 9 days or 90 days, hit us up. All of our information is in the description below. So we're getting right into what are these things that you need to know before you make the move to Portland. And these is not a pros and cons.
No, this is just things that people have brought up over the years of, working with clients. I mean, Ann, you're a native Oregonian. I've lived here in the Portland metro area for 26 years, and I just came from Washington, so very similar situation. But
Northwest.
We hear things all the time that, we just kind of take for granted. And so we thought we'd share those with you now so that if you're thinking of making the move, you know everything.
Yeah. And the first one is a good one, in our opinion. We're super friendly and we are very accepting. Yeah. So people move here from all over the country, or even the world for that matter, all the time. And it used to be in the early 2000s, there was kind of this anti-California. You'd see people put up signs, like no Californians. And nowadays they're like, oh yes, please bring Californians to buy our houses.
Yeah.
But if you literally talk to people in the Portland metro area, they're from all over.
They really are. I mean, Ann, you're kind of an anomaly.
I am an anomaly.
Most people, there are very few native Oregonians actually in the Portland metro area. Most people that you talk to have moved here from somewhere else, whether it's the East Coast, Midwest, or, just migrated down from either Washington or up from California. We just don't have a lot of native Oregonians, which makes us a nice little melting pot of everyone. And so everybody's like, yeah, sure, come, have a good time.
Yeah.
We don't care. And, it kind of extends into our food scene as well. I mean, if you have a special diet, you're vegan, vegetarian, gluten-free, we've got options for everybody at all levels. I mean, you can get food carts, you can get fine dining. It doesn't really matter what your dietary preference is. We've got something for you.
Yeah. And also we have a lot of relocation because of jobs. So, we have some of the major headquarters here for Intel and Nike and, well, Intel's headquarters are down in California, but we have, one of the largest employers here is Intel, Nike, we have Under Armour and Adidas. And anyway, there's just a ton of industry here. So a lot of people have relocated over the course of decades just to, work.
Well, and then even just our quality of life and all the amenities that we have to offer between, you can have the ocean or you can have the mountains, and both are within about, 60 to 90 minutes. So it's kind of a perfect little happy medium for those people who want to live outside.
Welcome diversity. So, we are one of those cities where we welcome people of all kinds because we're just open like that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking about the fact that we have the naked bike ride every year that goes through downtown Portland, and you got, your birthday suit bike riders, and we welcome that. That's just part of our city, part of who we are. So, and we welcome the other side of that as well. It's just everybody has a place here.
I want to talk about the growth of Portland. So we're a big, small city, and we have a lot of growth. And prior to COVID, we were always in one of the top cities in the country based on U-Haul stats that show where people are moving to and from. And people were moving here consistently. They were moving here for our beauty, our lifestyle, our culture, our food, jobs, etc., which you talked about in a few videos.
Yeah.
During COVID, though, we lost people.
People were moving out of here. They couldn't get out of here fast enough. And that's something that we'll talk about a little bit later, another reason for that. But yes, before and after COVID, we have definitely been a hot spot to move to for all the reasons that we've kind of talked about in terms of, we have the outdoor life, we have a very welcoming spirit. So, and then we have a lot of industry that brings people in.
Yeah.
So it's a kind of a great place to live. I know there was a point in my life where I was trying to figure out if I was going to move anywhere because I was blessed to have grown up in the Northwest.
Yeah.
Where would it be? And it was really a hard question to answer. And eventually I moved back from the place I had chosen. But, because the Northwest really does have just this amazing lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the one thing I would say is we are growing, but we are a small town at heart.
Yeah.
And it makes it a little bit hard because some of our infrastructure is not quite there.
Yeah.
And we're growing at a pretty massive rate.
Yeah.
I mean,
so in Forbes, they said that we are like one of the top cities growing at like 1.8% per year.
insane.
So, and we see it too, right?
Oh,
I mean,
so much of our business is people moving from out of area, either for, you know, personal preference or just for their jobs.
Mm-hmm.
And that's great. But it definitely, you know, is an interesting thing that we're growing at a
healthy pace. And we're trying to keep up with it, but we're not doing the best job.
We're working on that.
Yeah. So the third thing you should be aware of with moving to Portland is we're very dog friendly. This is Billy, my dog. He's a little rescue, best dog ever. And Erica here has a couple of dogs.
I've got two at home. Yes. Portland loves its dogs. It loves its animals. We've got, you know, restaurants that welcome dogs. You can, you know, they've got outdoor seating for them. And, you know, they'll bring a bowl of water, a menu. I mean, we love our dogs.
Daycares everywhere.
Oh my goodness.
Dog parks.
Yeah.
Really big on integrating your pets into the scene. I mean, we love animals in general, but dogs are a thing. In fact, we had a client that moved from Texas to Portland, and she got involved in the dog rescue. And that dog rescue would go down to Texas and pick up a bunch of stray dogs, because apparently they have a ton of them. And they would bring them up here, and every single one of them would get adopted. She said before they even got the truck up here, there was a group of people waiting for their dogs. So she said Portland loves their dogs. She said that's why Texas ships the dogs up here. So we're just very pro dog.
Oh yeah. There's a lot of rescues that will bring from all parts of the country dogs to the Northwest because they know that we will adopt them here. We love them. We make them part of our, you know, like I would say most dogs live in the house with their people just because our climate, you know, while it's mild, we get a lot of rain. It's not really conducive to outside dogs, but
you see people walking dogs everywhere.
Every
Especially walkable areas of Portland.
It doesn't matter if it's raining. It doesn't, and we have, you know, we've got doggy boutiques that will sell you anything you need, a rain jacket or snow parka or, you know, boots.
Yep.
We've got it all here and we love it. It's just part of our culture of like loving these little rascals. Yeah. We like animals.
The next thing we want to tell you about is the gray and the rain, which I know we've talked about in other videos, and you probably know this because you're looking at Portland. It's hard to hide the fact that we have a tremendous amount of rain, but it's a special kind of gray.
It is its own like entity. Yeah. I mean, the gray, the rain, the drizzle, the fog that comes in with our rain sometimes.
Kind of that low cloud cover where you kind of feel like you're a little more trapped in than...
It's like having low ceilings in a house. You just kind of feel like you should like scrunch down. And it's hard to imagine, especially if you're looking at homes in the summer or if you're visiting during the summer because they're glorious.
Yes. You come in the summer, you're not getting the full picture. You have to warn people about that a lot.
Yeah, because it's almost like false advertising. You're going to spend probably a good 6, 7, 8 months with the gray. And it's, you know, it's every day during the winter. A lot of times you just, you know, even if it's not raining, you're going to have that overcast gray feeling. Yeah. We do get a lot of fog too in the winter. So it adds to it, that just kind of enclosed feeling. And then we have like a million different types of rain.
We do.
I mean, it's insane. And we describe them all differently. Like it's a misty rain, it's a drizzle, it's a light rain, it's just showers.
It's like we need our own like version of window wipers just for Oregonians or Pacific Northwesters. But the good thing about that though is we don't have any extreme weather. Like we don't have tornadoes, we don't have hurricanes. I mean, the worst we see typically is like atmospheric rivers, which is where the rain comes down so hard, so fast in a short period of time that it kind of floods some of our, you know, waterways and stuff. Not to the point where we're all flooding, but it just brings on a heavy amount of rain. And with that, the number one thing we deal with is drainage, water in crawl spaces. It's just something we have to manage. So it's not uncommon when we sell a house or whatever that they have some water issues in the crawl space. We just have to manage that stuff. But we don't have extreme weather. So you know, we're not worried about when the next hurricane season's coming to maybe blow down the house or, you know, deal with major insurance kind of issues. So, and with that, you know, you probably can see that we're both wearing vests. So let me just talk to you about that for a second. I joke with people all the time, but this is a typical Pacific Northwesterner outfit. And the reason is because you got to have some layers. You got to be able to like take stuff off or feel cold and hot at the same time. Because today is actually like kind of an overcast day. It's been raining, but it's not too hot, but it's definitely cold. but you can get warm. Like you were just telling me this morning, you were outside working on some stuff and got really hot. So this is like the perfect setup is having vests. So you're going to buy a lot of vests when you make your move to Portland.
You're going to have a lot of layers, a lot of vests, things that you can take off. The one thing you will not need are umbrellas. We don't generally use them. I mean, you just kind of get used to the fact, maybe a hat, but rain is just a natural part of life.
Here we are, the most rainy city, and nobody we actually joke as Oregonians, like, you don't need an umbrella. It's too much work. You just deal with the rain. And
that's where you find that real nice Gore-Tex waterproof jacket, and you just work away.
That's right.
So yeah, your wardrobe may change when you move here.
So we talked a little bit about in other videos the cost of living here, but gas prices. So we on the West Coast, it's all the West Coast really, but here in Portland we're no exception, even though we're like considered the cheapest West Coast city. Gas prices are always at the highest that are the going rate. So I think even this morning, what were they, like just under $4 a gallon? But we've seen them in the high fives.
Oh, high fives, depending on what you're driving, even potentially low sixes if you're right in the city. You can just assume that you're going to pay about $1 more than the national average. And that kind of goes, for everything that you're going to, buy in the Northwest. We're just more expensive here, which is, part of being on a coast. So the next thing that we're going to talk about is our drivers. So while we are welcoming and we're super courteous, they're kind of terrible. In all weather. I mean, if it's too sunny, we can't see, they're terrible.
Yeah.
If it's too rainy, they can't see, they're terrible. You would think that we would at least know how to drive in the rain, but we don't. We don't get a lot of snow in the city, and so we don't know how to drive in snow.
And sometimes we get like some snow. We don't get a lot of snow. But there are some years, like I think last year we had about a week worth of snow, and literally the city shuts down. And you should probably get back to your house quickly because we are not prepared for it in Portland. They don't have the equipment. They're not prepared to get all the roads done quickly. So you're best just to hunker down.
And the other thing to note about that, like with the driver situation and snow in Portland, is that we have so many hills, especially right around the city. And it doesn't take much change in elevation sometimes for it to be maybe not snowing at the bottom, but snowing at the top of the hill. Even 100, 200 feet in elevation change is enough to see a difference. I've literally left, the top of the hill and had it snowing and then gotten to the bottom of the hill and there's nothing happening other than rain.
I live in a neighborhood, we're on a hill and literally like, I don't leave. I'm one of the last to get out of my house, whereas I can drive a half a mile down the road to the bottom of the hill and all the roads are perfectly dry and fine.
Yeah.
So it's one of those where, when you live in Portland, you just need to be aware of when it snows or gets icy or, anything like that. You just really want to prepare for that driving, and because drivers aren't the best.
They're not prepared for it. And like Ann said, our city is not prepared for it. Like we don't have snow trucks. We don't have, those things in place.
Minimal amount of
and
snowplows.
So you're only going to get the very main roads.
Yeah.
And if you live in an outlying area, you're definitely not going to get hit for a while. Yeah. In terms of them coming and clearing things for you. So it's...
Well, I was in Colorado a few years ago and they had a blizzard, but it seemed like they had a snowplow every mile and a half. Yeah. And so we could drive in it. Whereas here we have a very small number of snowplows and they only hit the freeways or the major roads. And so that kind of doesn't really help us. So yeah, just be prepared for that.
And I think, the other thing to add to the driver situation is that we have a ton of construction going on. Almost every major highway through and around the city, I mean, at least in the 26 years that I've been here, is constantly under construction because we are meant to be a little bit smaller city. And yet we're experiencing this massive boom of growth. The infrastructure is trying to keep up and it just can't. I mean, like I said, 26 years ago when I moved out here, Highway 26 was under construction to widen it. It's still under construction. I mean, and now 217 is under construction. Yeah. I'm sure that there's parts of 205 and 405 construction. So just something to keep in mind that, again, and I know we've said this in previous videos, where even if you map something, if it's like, oh, well, it's only, 10 miles, that could take you like 35 to 45 minutes, depending on the time of day and traffic, because we just, we're city of bridges. We have 12 bridges in the greater Portland metro area, and those have limited ability to pass and get cars across. And so they're always kind of these bottleneck points. And, again, we've said it before, but if you think you're going to do most of your living on like the east side or the west side of the river, that's probably the side that you're going to want to live on as well.
Yep. So the other thing we want to tell you is that the Portland, Oregon area is very into being environmentally friendly. So what's important to us is recycling, and solar panels are kind of common around here, and electric cars, and building sustainably. All those things get high markers for us Portland, Oregon people, because we just really appreciate preserving the environment. And so I remember I went to see my Florida family a few years ago, and instantly I was like trying to find the recycle bin, like where you recycle your glass and all this stuff. And they're like, what are you talking about? We don't do that. And that was so weird for me. I was like, you don't recycle your glass and you're this or that. So it just, I appreciate that. I mean, it's something when you live here, you learn it as a habit. And and I've been here my whole life, and they've done it, a good chunk of my life. So when you go to other parts of the country, you realize how different we are when it comes to that. A lot of times with like building even big commercial properties, doing like a natural roofscape, like even downtown Portland, if you go down there, you'll see some buildings are made in a way that is really designed around, the architecture to be environmentally friendly. Yeah. And so it's a big thing. And some of the builders around town, they always market heavily if they've built homes sustainably. And that's a really big thing for, people that, value the environment and just, trying to protect, being just a better citizen to our planet and recycling.
Well, we have some cool programs that go along with that. Like, obviously we have our beaches, and there are a ton of beach cleanup programs that will happen that you can volunteer for. If you're in the Portland metro area, they actually, as part of like the garbage processing, they give out composting bins so that you really can try to, make as minimal an impact on the environment as possible if you're here. So yeah.
They have adopt-a-highways. You can literally adopt a road. Yeah. And so you'll see signs all over town, like the person that kind of adopted that road, which means they go out and make sure it stays cleaned up. So if there's any debris or whatnot, they go out there regularly to do that. So yeah, we just really value taking care of our environment.
We like it to be pretty because it is pretty.
Yes. So we're also going to share with you that in this area, we are very anti-franchise. We have seen picketing and boycotting to have Walmarts go in, or a Hooters go in, or some type of franchise. We're very pro locally owned business, especially on the food scene. In fact, if you have a small business that's a food scene, locally owned food restaurant or whatnot, it's like we supercharge the cheerleading on those. Like, a new food cart's going in, or they're opening up a Pips Donuts on the other side of town or whatever, because it's locally owned. And it's kind of the essence of Portland is we value having, these unique restaurant or eating experiences that only Portland has, like Voodoo Donuts. And, we are not big on, even though we have franchises, you can go to McDonald's, you can go to the franchises, but there's few and far between of them. And you'll find a lot of where we kind of put our focus on the food scene here is those kind of mom and pop shops, or like professional chefs will open up a restaurant, and then it just becomes known for people getting there early to get in line to get in. So
on the flip side of that, we also are super big into like our farmers markets. Yes. I mean, they're huge. They're everywhere, especially during the summer. We even have some great winter ones that pop up so that you can take advantage of basically like the farm to table option. We have a lot of farm to table restaurants in the Portland metro area because we have such great rich soils. So that's something that you can find. And you can find, it's not just like fruits and vegetables. You'll find restaurants down there. You'll find kind of your ranchers with a selection of local grown meats. If that's your gig, cheeses. I mean, anything that you can possibly think of, you can find it at your farmers markets. And they just will shut down. I mean, some of these outlying areas, every city has plenty of farmers markets. And then in Portland, they have some massive ones. They do one Wednesday in the blocks behind the Arlene Schnitzer Concert Hall. And then on the weekend, they do it down in the park blocks by the school. And it's huge. It's grown over the years. I mean, I used to go 20 plus years ago, and it was big, and it's just gotten bigger since then. So you always have an option. I mean, the local coffee roasters go, anything that you can possibly are using in your kitchen, you can generally find at the farmers markets.
So since you stuck around to the end and we told you we would talk about this topic, which is the homeless population. And we want to start by saying that every major city has homeless population. I have colleagues that are in other cities that you would not necessarily think have that big of a homeless problem, and they actually do, and it tends to be growing all across the country. So we just want to make a blanket statement that Portland is not totally on its own, but certainly on the West Coast, whether you're looking at Seattle or California, we definitely have a larger homeless population status than most areas of the country. And it's because we have a lot of resources for homeless.
We have a ton of resources that the cities provide for them. Obviously, in the winter, we've got warming shelters. In the summer, they've got cooling shelters. The city does its best to make sure that they have places to go and get their needs met. But part of that means that we definitely have maybe an increase because of that.
And if you come to Portland or you're living in Portland, you'll see it. It's, it's on the freeway exits, it's around town. There seems to be areas of Portland that seem to have more of it than others. If you're in the suburbs, you don't really see it that often.
No. Certainly
if you go to, different parts of town, you're going to see it. And they're actually creating areas that are designated for them as we speak. Now, one thing you need to be aware of is that Portland does charge a homeless tax. And so if you make $125,000 or more, it'll be 1% of your net income. And if you're a business that grosses $5 million or more, you're also going to pay it, even if you're not in Multnomah County, it's Multnomah, Washington, and Clackamas. So they are trying different things to try to alleviate it. And it's not an easy solution. And it got really bad during COVID. And of course, we got on the headline news for it. And now I feel like they are trying to create solutions. Whether they're working or not is yet to be seen. Everyone has an opinion on it. We're not here to express one opinion over the other. In some ways, we've seen a lot of improvement. In other ways, there seems to be a long ways to go. But everyone agrees that this is not an easy solution because there's a lot of things involved with it, from mental health to drug use to just housing people and getting people off the streets. But it's here and you just need to be aware of it.
Yeah, I think, like any city, we haven't cracked the code as to what's the best way to help these folks. And so they're constantly working on it, but it is around. And if that's a concern, then, just something to know.
Yep.
Okay, so those are the things that we think that you need to know about living in Portland. If you have other questions, though, we are always happy to communicate, whether it's by text, email, phone. Shoot us a message. Our information's in the banner below, and we'd love to help you.